I'm here because I am a roaring lion crying out righteousness. Let's get started with yesterday's January 6th. How about that? Let's get started there. Benny Thompson from down in Mississippi, chairperson of the Select Committee, issued a report yesterday, he and his co-chair, Liz Cheney, that was scathing. And they, I heard that they had hired an HBO special production staff to choreograph how they presented each one of their segments of committee hearing. And I thought, well, okay, so nothing wrong. It's not a crime to do that, because it had been stated that the impeachment hearings, both of those were bamboozled. They were all over everywhere. They were not consistent, and the average layperson couldn't follow what was going on in with the impeachment hearings of Tribulation Trump. But Benny Thompson, Liz Cheney, and I don't know who else, the geniuses, well, I'll call them geniuses, let me take that back, the persons that decided, let's hire an HBO writer to script out how we're going to, and they presented a production yesterday in an hour. I mean, I do hour teachings, and I do productions, I do stuff, you know what I mean? And I was very impressed, not that I'm impressed with them, but I was impressed with how they presented the information. And I think it was Jamie Raskin, who is a former prosecutor himself, laid the big hammer out yesterday by indicating that they're going to recommend 4 criminal charges to the Department of Justice against Donald John Tribulation Trump. And it was, they went back to Hope Hicks and some of the things, who was a very trusted, if you will, part of the Trump Trump administration rather. And of course, I think it was several other people, lawyers and other Republicans that were used in a very strong and damning testimony against Trump, that he knew that he had lost the election. He understood that the election was clearly lost. His lawyers told him. Everybody else with half a brain told him, but yet he continued to pursue the fact that it wasn't. And I think John Eastman was also recommended for those 4 criminal charges to the Department of Justice as well. So my take is this, and perhaps Rudy Giuliani, who's now being queried by the D.C. Bar Association about some of the things that he said in court and some of his association with Trump with respect to promoting the false election narrative, or at least, I'm not an election denier. I'm not. I'm not one of those. But I do say this, that I don't necessarily trust the government. I don't. I just don't. I don't trust politicians in general. But I know that we're living in a time now where, the thing that stabilizes me about this whole matter is that when I'm watching, and I told y'all this several months ago, don't take sides. Don't take Joe Biden and the Democrat side. Don't take Donald John Tribulation Trump and the Republican side. Don't take the left or the right. I'm sure most of y'all found it very difficult to do, to be neutral, but just be an observer of this. But the thing that stabilizes me throughout this entire process is that I know that we're in a tribulation, and Almighty God spoke to me. Now, you don't have to believe this, but God said to me that Trump is the trigger of the tribulation. That is to say that what will happen or what will ensue as a result of his presidency is going to cause chaos and havoc, and will make the prophecy of the Bible of tribulation come true. Now here's another thing. So that stabilized me, so I don't get bent out of shape by none of this. But the other thing I have to tell you is this, is that we haven't had a president since George Bush. No, we haven't. Because Barack Hussein, the long-legged Mac Daddy Obama, who won the election after George Bush in 2008, actually, we probably haven't had a president. Let me put it this way: probably haven't had a real president since Bill Clinton, because I think the state of Florida, the Supreme Court gave the 541 votes that were found in Florida to George Bush over the boy, and so therefore, he became president. But then Obama comes along, and you can call me a Bertha, I'll proudly put on a badge as big as Macy's window in Times Square. Yes, I'm a birther. I do not believe that Barack Hussein, the long-legged Mac Daddy Obama, was born in America, and Hawaii in particular. And one of the things that, because at one point I kind of jumped on the Trump train because Trump was a birther too, until he realized that he stayed a birther, the media was not going to let him become president. But the other thing I thought, well, okay, Trump, you were a birther, stone cold birther. Trump said at one point in time in a meeting that he was going to send his special investigators out to Honolulu, Hawaii, to go through the records, to comb through the birth certificate, comb through the schools, comb through the cocaine factories, comb through the beaches, to comb the beachcomber, to find out that Trump lied. He didn't send anybody nowhere. He said he did, but he didn't. And so I'm thinking when he became president, what he was going to do is that he was going to say, all right, I'm president, I want to open up the files right now, and we're going over to Kenya, and we're going to find out where this boy was really born, because his grandmama said he was born in Kenya. But he didn't do that either. But what I want to express here is that a lot of people are saying that if the Department of Justice indicts Trump, it's going to cause all kind of chaos. And a lot of other people are saying, well, if the Department of Justice does not indict Trump, it's going to cause chaos as well, because what it's going to say effectively is that Trump is above the law, or that a president is above the law. Now, you'll have to remember, I think it was in the 1978 speech with Richard Nixon, and he's been interviewed by David Cabot. Was it Cabot? When Richard Nixon said that if the president does it, it's not illegal. In other words, Richard Nixon said the presidency is above the law. And we've never had a president indicted. Now, you've had impeachments, but never an indictment. An impeachment is a different animal. A criminal indictment is a whole nother, if you will, ball of wax. But Richard Nixon said on the Dick Cabot show, Dick Cabot, that if a president does something, it's not illegal because he's the president. Well, that might work in nations where you got a king, but no, Brother Nixon, you're wrong on that one. So with Trump, now America has to decide, Merrick Garland in particular, has to decide as to whether or not he's going to indict Trump. And if it does, it's going to be some time coming. But there may be an indictment coming from Georgia down there with Fannie Willis down there in Georgia, Fulton County, about Trump looking for 1,180 votes, one more than they have with Brad Rassenberger. So that indictment could come down pretty quick as well. And there's been a lot of information that the grand jury there, and then to make matters worse, if things could get worse, Trump's tax returns have now been dumped to the House Ways and Means Committee. I'll talk more about that a little bit later on in the session. So Trump is not having a real good day right now. He's not having one, but I can tell you this: as goes Trump days, so goes America. And I'm not a Trump supporter. The Lord said to me that the man is a servant of Satan. That's what the Lord said to me. That's what the Lord said to me. Now, you don't have to believe anything, but I would say this to you. I would tell you that you shouldn't, Biden and what we're going to see happening, I don't know if they're going to allow Kevin McCarthy to become the Speaker of the House, but he's under suspicion as well. They've recommended an ethics committee. Look at him and Andy Biggs. Both of them are contending to be the Speaker of the House. And I'm not sure how they're going to work that out. But, I will say this. Well, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not an independent. I'm a servant of the Lord. But I would say to the Republican Party, y'all need to get your stuff together. All this public fighting about not letting Kevin McCarthy, got 5 diehard, if you will, special caucus members, Freedom Caucus members, who said they wouldn't vote for Kevin McCarthy under any circumstance. So now the whole thing is up in the air. Finally, you get rid of Nancy Pelosi, and you can't find nobody to replace. It is dumber than dumb. I mean, what the Republicans are doing now with Kevin McCarthy and Andy Biggs, it is dumber than dumb. I mean, dumb. And so I don't know who they're going to have, and if they do finally get themselves organized with January 4th, January 5th, when the new speaker should be sworn in, or they're going to have a vote, that who it's going to be, whoever it is, then they're going to be off to the races of calling Jim Jordan, going to be calling, who's the head of the Judiciary Committee, is going to be investigating Bo Biden, Hunter Biden. Which one is it? Hunter Biden, yeah. Going to be investigating him because that boy, listen, I'm going to tell you, I mean, I don't have all the information, all the records, but that Biden boy walked away from over there in Ukraine with millions of dollars. Well, the same way that, that Jared Kushner walked away from Saudi Arabia with billions of dollars. Listen. I mean, let's be fair where we can be fair. That Biden boy walked away from Ukraine with millions of dollars. And I have some question about whether or not we ought to be involved in that war in Ukraine. Now they're sending Patriot missiles over there. They've been sending a whole lot of other stuff. I think America sank one of Russia's ships off the coast of Odessa down there in the Ukraine and Crimea going back a few months ago. I've got my questions about whether or not, and I don't know whether or not Russia went into Ukraine because Biden was president. And that Biden boy took all that money from the energy company over there, and Russia busting down those energy blocks over there in Kiev and every place else. So it's going to be an interesting year, the year 2023, unlike anything that we have ever seen, even during the days of World War II or the Vietnam War. And we may see a return to people in the streets in terms of their support. So we're going to see in 2023 a very tumultuous year. Now, I would say to everybody, fasten your seatbelts and get ready for a very difficult time here in America. It's going to be survival of the fittest as the Republicans get an opportunity to now begin to fight the Democrats. And there's a slight possibility that either Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema will actually caucus with the Republicans. And if she does that, first of all, she become a superwoman, and she will then have the presidency in the palm of her hands. So I'm not prognosticating that she will, but that will flip the Senate back over to the Republicans. They'd have the House and the Senate. And those two Irish boys, McConnell and McCarthy, will be in their glory. Listen, I'm going to take a break, everybody. Don't forget, we're in the season of giving, and we also need your prayers and your financial support to help us through this foreclosure procedure. It is ugly, and the devil is trying his very best. And if you just gave 2 mics and said, it would make me at least, if you just say, Pastor Manny, all I got is $5, I'm going to send this $5 to you. It'll say more than you can begin to imagine, rather than you just sitting there and just completely ignoring. Be hard-hearted. I'm not giving him nothing. I mean, am I that bad of a person that, 1,000 people listen to me and won't give? Am I that bad of a person? What did I do that's so bad? So, financially help me with the foreclosure, to fight it. I need money. I do. The church needs it.